Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Eyes Open Podcast, because once you see it,
you can't unsee it.
Unfortunately, we are going to be talking about a subject that the entire nation and the whole world has taken note of tonight on this episode. Right now, we're dealing with a nation that's captivated by what went on in Tennessee, North Carolina, and in Florida. It started in Florida and made its way up the eastern seaboard and inland, almost 300 miles inland, to the city of Asheville and the surrounding areas, and devastated thousands and thousands of people with the loss of life and the loss of their homes and their livelihoods. And tonight, I promised the audience that we would discuss the harsh details of why a hurricane off of the Gulf Coast would come this far in, what were the motives of the government, why FEMA is not responding like FEMA should, where is the budget, where is the money, and why are so many people still lost and unaccounted for, with our military standing down, with the National Guard standing down. And so tonight, ladies, I think we're going to explain the harsh details of what's really going on. What did we uncover when the evidence started surfacing, something that the media is not going to cover, but we are on this podcast. So
I think the one thing I think that we can just kick this thing off with is us understanding and remembering. Did we not remember what it was like with Katrina? The government will not save you.
That's right.
That's the first thing we realized the first time this happened. And here we are again. The government will not save you.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing is that we are a people for the people by the people.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
always will be.
Absolutely.
And we come together as communities. It's always going to be that way. But the lack thereof of our structural government that we, thought, or many people thought that they could trust. And, we pay our taxes. And where's FEMA? And where's the Red Cross?
Yeah.
And where's our governors?
Yeah.
Not there.
All these tax-funded departments. They're not there. Well, simply, we can kick this off with the fact that Mayorkas, under the cabinet of Kamala Harris and Biden, who is missing in action, he's taking a nap on a beach somewhere.
And can I just say, can we do a wellness check on the governor of North Carolina?
Where? Microphone check.
Check. Where is he?
Or the mayor of Asheville, who is nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
Where are
Security.
Or
where are they?
The senators and the House members of North Carolina.
No, but you see the governor of Florida in
Ron
a state
DeSantis.
that's not his. Why? Because he's trying to get his own people out of North Carolina.
Yeah.
What a leader, right? But that's just an example, right?
That's leadership.
And those are Republicans, and the governor's a Democratic governor. Where are the people at?
Well, this is definitely strategy for them with an upcoming election, and then you have the seaboard strikes, the ports all striking, and nothing is happenstance in America. If you haven't noticed by now, there are so many false flags, so many things that build up, and I'll just go ahead and say this. I did bring up Mayorkas, and I brought up the budgetary spending, the fact that FEMA was allotted so much money by the U.S. government, which is tax dollars, was technically printed money from the Federal Reserve that we pay taxes on, was allotted over $600 million, which they gave away to migrant resettlement. And a majority of the FEMA workers were actually taken to the border to help with the processing of that, when FEMA is not for that. It's not designed for that. It's for things like hurricanes and being able to reestablish communities in the aftermath of a hurricane or tornado or earthquake. And so Mayorkas went to the podium and said, I'm sorry, folks, we have spent all the money on migrant resettlement. He confessed to it. And when you look at the amount spent, it was over $600 million. And he's saying that there is no more money to spend. I think how much money did they spend on this incident? Did they give?
Gosh, billions, right?
No, millions.
We're talking about
North Carolina, the hurricane.
Oh, now that I don't know.
Yeah. I think Biden's whitehouse.gov said it was $20 million total. That was it. So you can spend $600 million on migrant resettlement, which you're causing because this administration has left the open borders. So they're coming across the borders by the millions into this country. Close to 20 million have now invaded this country. But when it comes to American taxpayers, people that are the salt of this country, specifically in Appalachians, I mean,
well, wait a minute. What
they
about
have
the
no
money
money for them.
The couple days after the storm that we sent over across the seas to Lebanon?
not only the money, but I was talking to somebody in the grounds of Tennessee, and literally 2 days after the hurricane, we sent 700 troops, people, to a foreign nation 2 days after the hurricane
Instead of our own
from
people.
Tennessee itself. Why are we not helping our own people? Oh, but wait, when Biden was interviewed, he said storm. Wait, what storm? Because they were asking him, and he literally was like, I didn't know what storm you were talking about.
Like the Twilight Zone.
What storm?
Well, he's been letting Kamala Harris handle this, and she's doing her photo ops. I saw her on the ground in Nashville, not really talking to anybody, only a few people, and doing photo ops. And congratulations, Kamala Harris, on your campaign for president. But I'm sorry, that's not how being a president works. When you go to the podium and say we're offering now $750 checks to residents that have lost everything, honey, $750 wouldn't
it's
buy
alone.
it wouldn't buy
Read the
the
fine print.
groceries that they lost in their refrigerator, let alone their home that floated off when the waters came crashing down the mountain. So I'm sorry, Kamala Harris. I pray and we hope, in fact, I know that Americans are watching and they're not going to let this slide in November when it comes time to vote.
That's right.
So with the money being spent, mishandled, billions of dollars. Can we talk about the fact that $200 billion has already been given to the Ukraine, and she has now recently pledged, just the other day, $9 billion more dollars to the actor crossdresser known as Vladimir Zelensky, who campaigned for Kamala, and then she turned around and handed him a government check. Is this any more evidence that the United States American citizens need to stop filing their federal taxes? Now is the time, because it's nothing but a slush fund.
I think with that, I mean, if you just want to bring up the IRS situation, in my personal opinion, and I teach this on my platforms, I believe that's going to change. I believe this entire structure, this IRS, I believe not only are obviously we're getting into this fabricated storm that's trying to take out geographical
Full-on
land,
cities.
Right, land grabs. But I also believe they're trying to purposely break the financial system on purpose.
100%. They've been working on that.
Planned destruction.
It's a 30-year
of
plan.
the way that we're doing exchanging monetary
100%.
fiat. So by her saying more billions, and them signing these checks all over the world,
They're
it's a
devaluing the
plan.
dollar quickly.
It's a plan. Just like this land grab's a plan. If you want to talk into that, what did you find?
Well, the evidence, I mean, if you look really into the research of it, there were 3 areas that are affected. Obviously, we know the main city, Asheville, because everybody knows the Biltmore. They know the Vanderbilts run Asheville, and that's the largest city. Yep. It's a beloved city in North Carolina next to Charlotte, a couple hours away from where we're at, sitting here on the couch. We're only 2 hours away from it. And it was affected by the mudslides and the water, but there was Chimney Rock, there was
Spruce Pine, Kings Mountain, completely decimated.
Completely decimated.
Gone.
3 cities wiped off the face of the earth.
Insane. It's insane.
Like
and
no water towers, no electricity, no homes, no roads, no power.
Demolished.
There's no cities.
Completely
Cars
bulldozed.
are gone.
I mean, it did better than a construction team could have demolished it,
That's
but the nature of this, it demolished it completely. So they don't even have to do that. So
gone.
the question is, why would it hit a town that's 300 miles inland from the Gulf Coast of where Hurricane Helene started, when we all know I was raised in Florida, and we've been through so many hurricanes.
So
once they hit the in parts of Florida, it dies.
That's right. It loses
and you get
momentum.
rain, but you don't get the type of flooding that we saw in elevated mountainous territories.
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
I think all of us were looking at this going, I feel like I'm watching a Paramount movie picture.
Oh,
like
it was
the end
totally
of days.
one of those post-apocalyptic movies.
Why is a hurricane spinning
Gaining.
1,000 miles
Correct.
off the coast?
Steven Spielberg couldn't written a better script.
Right?
Yeah.
That's the number one. And I would sit here and I would think to myself, these people who live here maybe their whole lives generationally, they have no idea what it's like to be in a floodplain. Like I went in South Alabama, where I'm from, and the Gulf Shores or the Panhandle. We're used to these things. And the flooding and the geographic is, and the way the homes built are built to withstand these things. We're talking about the mountains where you have valleys where water will just pool,
And none
they
of
run
them-
off of the mountains and they run through. None of them are prepared. Nobody has flood insurance.
Nobody has flood insurance.
But not only that, I was talking to a Tennessee resident who actually has been through a flood, not due to a hurricane, but a flood. And she said, Amber, I've seen roads washed out. She said, listen, these roads were not washed out. There was underground explosives that had to have went off with what is going on.
It's the same thing as 9/11. When you watch two towers go down based on a plane, and they are the most steady structures. Even Donald Trump, when he was working in New York, and he had all of his real estate in New York and practically built some of the skyline of New York. I mean, he's responsible for it. Thank you, Donald. But he actually stood at ground zero, and he said there's no way that a plane took down towers this strong, made of solid steel. It crumbled floor by floor by floor. But what did cause it, and this is no longer a conspiracy theory, many panels have sat and discussed this. Geoengineers by the hundreds have discussed this, that it was explosives at the basin that caused it, like demolition style. Not to mention building 3.
Because it fell just like this.
Boom, 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 boom. But yet there are still people thinking that a bunch of towelheads got on a plane that they hijacked, and then they knocked at a building and it crumbled demolition style. So we're at this place where they're trying to sell us plots of land in Antarctica. And is anybody buying the land in Antarctica?
Well, and speak to the sound alarm going off before anything even happened.
The insanity of the fact that you would think that 22 inches of rain, which is what they said hit North Carolina, could actually cause what we saw in the video footage. And we're going to show you tonight some of the video footage of the damage and the devastation, that it could cause flooding that looked like like a tidal wave coming through the mountains. Rain doesn't do that.
Rapids.
Rain. It looks like white water rapids. And we see whole cabins literally unhinging.
Like a tsunami in the middle of
floating. We saw cattle floating in the river. We saw bodies floating. We saw whole houses lifting.
Who could be prepared for this?
Nobody could.
No.
Right?
No.
Nobody can.
It's not natural.
You're hearing on the Weather Channel the severe storms coming in, the hurricanes coming out of the Gulf, and all you're thinking is, it's just a tropical depression. It's just going to make its way out. Instead, it picked up speed.
Yeah. And they didn't have enough time, because nobody in North Carolina, except the West Coast, because Wilmington, North Carolina, I lived in Wilmington when we had a major hurricane. I remember growing up, and we had to put down the metal shades on the windows and board up everything, and we stayed put. But even Wilmington wasn't even devastated when it hit that coastline as much as what we saw in North Carolina. So here's where the information started dropping from people on the ground, and evidence started surfacing. And thank God for the internet.
Thank you, Jesus, for social media, so the people could tell the truth.
Yes.
The truth, because the moment it happened, within a matter of 48 hours, people began to film stuff on TikTok quicker than the algorithm could take it down and censor it. And by the thousands, reports were flooding in. My inbox alone, hundreds of messages came in once I did some videos talking about the conspiracy surrounding the flooding, and the details that were sent to me were heartbreaking.
Horrific.
Where I saw video footage of the bodies hanging in the trees once the water receded. I saw the people's desperation. I heard the phone calls of women crying out, calling their loved ones, saying, hey, look, FEMA's here, and they're telling us that they don't want the media here to see exactly what's going on, covering up things. So we'll go ahead, and I know we're on a high trip. We started this on a high note, but I want to break this down for you a little bit so that you'll understand why our government is standing down and not helping these people, and why they've done it in the past, and why, unless they are stopped, and you heard me say that, I'm not stuttering, they will continue to do that until they get everything that they want, which is a global world order, total enslavement.
Well,
it's biblical. It's biblical. It's biblical. So we'll start with Lahaina, Maui. Many of you remember a while ago in Hawaii, the devastation of the residents when a wildfire swept through Lahaina and destroyed everything in its path. We saw the wildfires of California spread and destroy hundreds, if not thousands, of homes. And when you look at natural disasters that happened years ago before the technology we had for weather modification, you never really saw this amount of devastation.
That's right.
So in Lahaina, it was proven fact that they were wanting for a long time, the mayor there, the government, the United States government wanted to build what's called a 15-minute city. Are you familiar with that term?
Is this a smart city?
Smart city.
Yeah, they're popular.
Yeah, they're actually talking about it at Davos. It's not something they're going to do just here in America. They're going to do it all over the world.
I don't think anybody's, on this note, I don't think anybody's is watching what's going on with the Saudi prince. He's building the city of Neom, and it's going right through the desert right there at Mount Sinai, and he's going to put this smart city.
It's a strip.
In Saudi Arabia, and they need massive amounts of conductors.
Yeah. Yeah, and literally what a smart city is where everybody lives on top of each other. Everybody's stacked. There
Like
is no
you said,
land.
you don't go anywhere.
You don't own any land. Everything is rented to you by the government. The vehicles are electric. Everything is disposed to you through electric. I mean, everything will be digital, AI controlled. There will be no workers. You will be given an allotment by the government. You will work for the government. They will give you an allowance, and they deduct it. And this is where the microchipping that Google talked about at the Google Summit in 2015, about how everybody on the planet will be microchipped by 2035, and that will be the new currency. The currency will be linked to that, which is blockchain currency. And so smart cities have a way of popping up, and what they're doing in America, because we live in a free, technically on the surface, a free country. We're not free, but we're more free than a lot of the tyrannical other governments and what they do to people in China and all of the Arab countries. Thank God for that. But we're getting to the point where they're slowly eroding our freedoms. And what they do in this country is they take land. So do y'all remember in North Dakota when the ranchers had to stand up to the FBI?
Yes, they land grab all the time.
So they were trying to buy, they were not trying to buy, but they had tried to purchase the land, and none of the ranchers were wanting to sell it.
So they were trying to take it.
So they went in with the guns, the FBI, and they tried to take the land, and they said they had a quarter. It was false. And the ranchers got on their horses by the hundreds and stood up, got their shotgun. They were like, Bill, let's go.
You're not taking it.
We ride at dawn.
Yeah.
I just feel like for the past decade, 20, maybe even 30 years, we have been fighting for our freedom again. But instead of with muskets, it's been a proxy war.
It's constantly.
It's constant.
Between the elite and the rest of us.
Free if you can keep it.
If you can keep it.
And that's the thing, we've been always trying to keep it.
Yeah.
But now we're getting to the point where they can actually manipulate the weather, which I hear some people saying, prove it. We're about to prove it to you. I mean, it's not conspiracy anymore now that everyone's got iPhones, cell phones, and recording all this stuff.
Yeah.
And they've been telling us what they've been doing since 1990s. Maybe 15 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Manipulating, and now they've got AI.
Yeah.
Now they can manipulate down to the molecular structure.
Yeah.
And they can guide these things.
Yeah.
Exactly where
Speed
they
them
want
up.
it.
So the government, if you don't know this already, when you purchase a home, if you actually look through the contracts, I used to work in real estate doing marketing. When you buy a home, you don't own the land.
No.
The only people that own land in America are the ones that inherited it from their families, and they have been here for over 100 years. And there are still people in America that actually own land back before the government confiscated all the land, built homes on it. They sell you a home, but you don't own the land. That's why you pay land taxes to the government.
So even if you're debt-free, you're not debt-free.
You're not
still gotta
debt-free
pay the tax on the
because at any time, if the government wants the land that your home sits on, they'll confiscate
land.
it.
Try to stop paying your taxes on your land.
And they'll
come
take
get
your
it.
home. They'll come and get it. So the government is notorious. I mean, the evidence is out there, story after story of times where the government has confiscated land. And they've gotten a little too big for their britches. They have forgotten that they are employees of us and we are their boss. And they literally, it's a cabal at the top, and they are the political elite. They vote only for the people that lobby them and the big corporations like BlackRock, Vanguard, Wall Street. And they only are dictated by those companies, which are the elite, the 1%. So they're never going to vote for their constituents, which goes to the point why do we still pay federal taxes when we have no representation? It really is insane. So land grabbing is what the government does. So follow me on this. So picture it, North Carolina. There are 3 areas of land that the government has had their eye on for some time. And that was Chimney Rock,
Pine Spruce, and Kings Mountain.
Yeah. Those 3 areas were the main areas that were devastated. Obviously, Asheville, because it's in the middle of all of it, was devastated, but not wiped off the map.
I mean, there's always casualties to war.
Yeah. So why would they want this land?
You just said it. The smart cities. You just built it up.
Well, Lahaina, Maui was a smart city grab. So Lahaina, Maui was burnt down. Many people on the ground in Lahaina saw video footage of a laser coming from the sky. It was something out of a science fiction movie. And when they videotaped the aftermath, and believe me, TikTok it may be owned on the face by a China company named ByteDance, but the government is definitely controlling it because every type of evidence is wiped from TikTok.
like
You
to
talk
scrub.
about it, it gets momentum. Facebook is right behind it. Instagram, YouTube is one of the worst purveyors of censorship. Anything that talks about what the government is doing that they don't want you to know, they'll take it down. But the video footage of Lahaina, Maui was shocking when you saw cars that were melted from the inside. And we've seen
Not
wildfires.
natural.
When things burn
No.
down, I mean, I had a piece of property that burned in the middle of the night when I was a kid, and it burned half of our property down, and we lost half of our stuff, including my pets. And it didn't melt everything to the ground. And it was a bad, hot fire that burnt, because it burnt all night long. But when we saw cars in Lahaina, Maui, crumple from the inside out, and then you see all the rich homes, like Bill Gates'
Yeah.
home in Lahaina,
They're perfect.
Lady Gaga,
No
Oprah
problem.
owns estate. Who was the former head of Amazon?
Oh,
Bezos?
Bezos.
sorry,
Jeff Bezos owns land there, and their homes were untouched. But when you look at the overview of the map, all of the strip of the homes where they wanted the land for the 15-minute city was completely demolished, and they had been organizing government meetings in Lahaina trying to get those people to sell the property, and then the wildfire broke out.
Well, see, that's what I'm saying. Whether it's a land grab for the smart cities, or it's a land grab for what we were just discussing with the lithium and all of the mines and the
Well, that's
natural
conspiracy
resources.
theory, according to the government.
Well, they need those conductors for the smart cities. So whether it's the land grab to actually build the smart
Yeah.
city, they also need how are we going to power it, and then you have all the evidence on that.
So
You guys are saying are conspiracies. I'm not saying all of you guys, but we're about to show you it's not a conspiracy theory. This is the truth.
So we'll talk with the fact that spruce pine is the leading producer of high purity quartz needed to
Yeah,
make AI chips
that's it.
for the globe. It's the largest amount of quartz in the world.
AI chips.
And because was it Pakistan or Iran or one of those foreign countries that actually where we were mining lithium, and we had lithium mines over there, those have shut down because we don't have that relationship anymore due to all the wars. So they were looking for an area that had a great amount of lithium. And when you look at the area surrounding Asheville, it is actually, according to geologists, the largest amount of lithium
Imagine
It's
that.
rich.
on the planet.
Imagine that.
On the planet.
And it's flooded.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? And so I wouldn't have thought this was a land grab until my inbox of people from the ground began to send me evidence of meetings that were held in the area of Chimney Rock, in the area of Spruce Pine, where government officials showed up and made an offer for the land weeks and months before the hurricane hit, and they were wanting to buy the land. And then when you look at the research, there was a large company in mind that made a deal with the government for $90 billion, and that company is Albemarle. So I'm going to put some graphics up while we're talking. Just pay attention. Albemarle's corporate headquarters is actually located in Charlotte. It's 4250 Congress Street, Suite 900. I'll put that up on the screen. But Albemarle submitted state and federal permits for potential redevelopment of Kings Mountain and near Chimney Rock for mining lithium. And they already have the deal on the table with the government. And when they showed up, because there's a lot of landowners up there that have held, these are Appalachian people. These are people that have held this land, I guarantee you, for generations,
Yep.
3, 4, 5, 6 generations. These people aren't new people that have showed up there.
That's
These
right.
aren't transplants.
These are probably coal
these are
miners'
naders.
granddaughters. You know what I'm
Correct.
saying?
In
These
fact, a
are-
lot of them are.
Yes.
So they've been there since before the Civil War. So they actually have land deeds.
Yeah.
That's what people
And
in
they
America
know
don't
what
have.
they're sitting on,
Correct.
and they know what they have.
And they know that they didn't want to sell. They didn't want to sell their homes because they've been there their whole life.
And they've got lots of guns, so they're probably going to fight you off. So the government's got to take
And
them
they
out
knew
in
it.
a different
yeah,
way.
Yeah, they are stock of the earth. They're the salt of the earth. These people, I mean, they love God. They love
fighters.
guns. They love the
Country.
country. I'm sure they love Trump. God bless him. But the fact But the fact that the Albemarle Corporation, which is a global leader for providing essential elements for mobility, energy, connectivity, submitted their applications over a year ago to the government for that mine in that area, and then they showed up to have meetings to purchase the land, and none of the landowners wanted to sell.
do it. No.
And then in walks Hurricane Helene. And Hurricane Helene was one of the largest hurricanes that we saw next to Katrina. When you look at the mapping
It's
of
way bigger.
it was
It's a supercell beyond any. This I don't even think you can call this a Cat 5. This was a Cat 6. That's not even on our records, but it needs to be because now it's a big deal.
absolutely. So, I mean, the insanity that anybody would call us at this point a conspiracy theorist when the evidence is plain. Now, a lot of people think, well, how do you make a hurricane or how do you manipulate a hurricane? Well, they've been doing it for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
And the company or the government company entity is called HAARP, HAARP. All you got to do is do your research. They've been doing cloud seeding, and now the news has been reporting all over the world that it's not just here. China has been cloud seeding. Over in Europe, they've been cloud seeding. And this is where they send up ionic iodine, they send up lithium, they send up barium. I'm sure you've stepped out on your porch on a sunny afternoon and you've seen planes with trails
Big old stripes
that are
in the
not
sky.
condensation trails.
They are not.
Because they stick all day long, those streaks. And when you do a little deep dive on what they're spraying, it is lithium and barium, which when you look on the elemental chart spells bale.
I mean, yes, and commercial airlines don't even fly that low. So
Yeah.
that's a stupid debunk.
So, but why would they spray those chemicals in the air unless there's something on the ground that can manipulate those chemicals?
Well, this whole thing is off of ions.
Yep.
Positive and negative charged ions.
Correct.
And they know this stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think you have a video that shows. So for the ones that are like, that's impossible, you Christians are crazy, everyone's a conspiracy theorist, all that. Listen, they've been doing this for 20 years. Okay, NASA's been involved in this. The land grabs, just to even do like the fake rain clouds that you're about to see, they had to clear out thousands of acres to be able to do
Just
this.
to build
and they
that.
land grabbed that just to do it
with
a noise ordinance.
Yeah.
So you're about to see that they really do this. It really is happening, and they've now perfected it.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm thinking, and who knows, we'll never know the true story, they could be, because this is all started in hurricane season, so they could be watching for the natural occurrence of hurricanes and go, that's one we're going to utilize and we're going to take, but now we've got to get it up here. Let's go ahead and start doing our job and manipulating it to do what we want to do. So we got another one coming in the Gulf.
Milton.
We'll see how they manipulate that. But we wanted to show you this rain cloud.
Let's check it out.
Despite the cost, however, NASA does need to test these engines once in a while. So they built this place in the wetlands of Mississippi. The first thing they installed was a huge loudspeaker, through which they played white noise to simulate the sound of a rocket. They then sent a number of trucks in different directions out into the wilderness, and the drivers were ordered to stop when the noise levels became acceptable. This gave them an imaginary boundary line, and anyone living on the inside of it was offered a simple choice. Stay, and you'll never hear another television program as long as you live. Or take the NASA shilling and get out. No one stayed, and NASA ended up with exactly what it wanted. 125,000 acres of nothing. They even had to move 5 cemeteries, because the noise they were planning on making would wake the dead. Don't worry if you can't hear what I'm saying. I couldn't even hear myself. This is the loudest sound you could possibly conceive. And as it turns out, the cleanest. Now, the most amazing thing is that cloud up there, which was generated by the engine, is just a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen. It's water vapor. And in about an hour's time, someone in Mississippi is going to get wet washing. It will actually rain. I told you! It's raining! That's unbelievable!
I mean, right there. Number one, did y'all catch it? They came in and land grabbed to be able to do what you just saw. They manipulated the noise so bad and told them, if you guys ever want to hear again, you guys get out. And so they got the land. And then on top of that, they reproduced the rain cloud. They manipulated, played God, and this thing actually started to rain over the area that they were playing God with. They've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
And now they've gotten so good at it. Like you said, they want the land. The people said, no, you can't have it. Now they're going to fine. You know,
We'll take
6
it.
months to a year later, they developed a superstorm that we've never even seen ever charted on any of our data to get what they wanted.
Well, we've said this for a long time, that Hollywood always shows you exactly what they're going to do before they do it. And there was a movie with Gerard Butler, and I'll post it up there, that is called Geostorm. And it literally is them conducting electrical storms, supercell storms. And there's another movie called Supercell, where it's about one of the largest storms that were created in a not a laboratory, but by scientists, that could rain and do thunder. But in Geostorm, it was all about politics for them, and they were targeting one political party, and they were using a geostorm to destroy that political party, their land and everything on it. So, and this was years ago. It's the same thing that they did with the pandemic. They showed it in movies. It's the same thing that they did with the vaccine. They showed it in movies. The same thing that they did with 9/11. It was shown for 10 years in movies. And so they always project what they do, and that's part of their religion. They have to show the general public what they're going to do so that they are released from what they call karma.
What do you think about this, Amber? What do you think about that craziness?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I've known about it. Unfortunately, I'm one of the people who have talked
You're
about
a
it
tinfoil
a little
hat
bit
wearer.
about. Yes,
That's true. I've heard you talk about this before.
And here's the thing, too, though, is even though, our time is coming to a conclusion, I feel like I hear the people saying, so if all of this is controlled, if all of this is manipulated, then what can I even do about it? And so as we continue the conversation, which I want to continue doing in the next episode, maybe we could give them a little bit of peace of mind so that they can actually feel like, okay, there are some things that I can do for me and mine. Because as we've seen in this episode, as we've seen on the ground, we unfortunately are here for our neighbors, but we got to figure it out, y'all. Nobody's going to come save us.
Nobody's going to come save us. So, I mean, that is where we're at with this episode of the podcast. We will start again next week. You will see we're going to talk in detail with more evidence that we have, and we're going to talk about what we can do so far as what should Americans be doing in the time of crisis. How do you prepare? And if you don't prepare, what will happen? So we'll see you on the next episode.
Can't wait. See you there.